This is The Minimum Commitment, film theory in small doses, where the real danger isn't the monster in the water. It's how long we pretend it's not there. I'm Don Lawler, film scholar, cinematic life raft, and someone who still feels traces of fear around large bodies of water. Let's get into it. At first glance, Jaws appears to be a straightforward yet unsettling story. A massive, menacing shark attacks a seaside town, causing widespread panic among the residents. In response, 3 brave men set out on a perilous quest to hunt down and kill the creature. But the longer you stay in its mysterious waters, the more the film uncovers its true nature. It becomes stranger, darker, and increasingly unsettling with each moment. Jaws doesn't behave like a traditional monster movie. It refuses neat metaphors. It rejects clean resolutions, and in doing so, it captures something America was just beginning to understand in 1975. That the people in charge aren't coming to save you. The 1970s were drowning in discontent. The nation grappled with the lingering trauma of the Vietnam War, the disillusionment fueled by the Watergate scandal, and a steady economic decline that strained everyday life. As these crises unfolded, faith in American institutions steadily evaporated, leaving a climate of uncertainty and mistrust. Out of the murky waters of national disenchantment, a monster emerged. Silent, relentless, and perfectly timed to feed on America's fear. Steven Spielberg was just 27 when he took on Peter Benchley's best-selling novel and transformed it into something leaner, stranger, and far more enduring. Where the book leaned into sensationalism and scandal, Spielberg pulled back, transforming the story into something elemental. He stripped it down to 3 men, 1 boat, and the silent terror of what lurks beneath. Jaws became a formal experiment in dread, stripping away spectacle until only fear remained. Spielberg weaponized absence. He made fear a presence without a shape, louder in silence, and most powerful when unseen. Jaws was never about the shark. It was about the danger we deny right up until it bites back. Jaws isn't frightening simply because of the shark's actions. It's terrifying because no one knows how to stop it. And the very people who should act decisively either downplay the threat, misunderstand it, or put money ahead of lives. And so the threat remains, not just circling out at sea, but woven into bureaucracy, tradition, and denial. It's the silence of the mayor's ignorance, the hesitation of a police chief who came to the beach to escape the violence of a city, only to find something far worse waiting in the water. The arrogance of a system that unfairly tends to prioritize economic gains over genuine empathy and human compassion. Each failure isn't just a personal matter. It indicates underlying structural problems. It represents a gradual decline that is obscured behind an appearance of order, with the loss masked by the illusion of control. The shark keeps killing, and the town keeps swimming, because if they acknowledge the danger, they must also acknowledge that the systems they relied upon were never designed to protect them. There's no explanation or backstory for the shark. It has no mythology, no detailed origin story. It's not cursed, mutated, or alien in nature. It simply exists, appearing unexpectedly, then disappearing into the depths, only to re-emerge without warning. The shark doesn't symbolize anything fixed or concrete. Instead, it absorbs and reflects the fears and anxieties of those who observe it, much like a cinematic sponge soaking up energy from its surroundings. It can represent nature's raw power, the excess and greed of capitalism, the opacity of government, or the vast, terrifying unknown. It becomes whatever the audience perceives or expects it to be. It's not a metaphor or allegory. It's a blank slate, open to interpretation. In its ambiguity, it becomes all the more terrifying. Because how can you fight something that doesn't care about what it symbolizes? Something that simply exists, unconcerned with meaning or intent. Spielberg doesn't just use the ocean as a simple setting in his film. He employs it as a powerful, formal device that underscores the thematic depth. It becomes a soundstage of the unknowable, a boundless, elusive canvas that embodies mystery and the limits of human understanding. Out on the water, there are no landmarks to orient the viewer, no boundaries to confine the horizon, just an endless expanse of blue, stretching infinitely and concealing everything beyond sight. It's the perfect visual metaphor for dread, shapeless, infinite, and always just beneath the surface. We never really know where the shark is. We barely even see it. But the camera keeps pulling us outward, further from land, farther from the illusion of safety until the shoreline becomes a whisper. What lies ahead isn't some noble frontier. It's a threat we've tried to define, contain, and ignore. We've always projected our fears onto what we can't fully see, and in Jaws, that fear has shape. It attacks without warning, without logic, and vanishes before we can comprehend it. We call it a shark, but what we are really identifying is the fear of something that does not follow our rules. And still, we send 3 men to stop it. Each one carries the weight of a system already failing on land. Brody, played by Roy Scheider, is civic order, rules and responsibility without real power. Hooper, played by Richard Dreyfuss, is science, rationality ignored by those in charge. And Quint, played by Robert Shaw, is raw experience, scarred, unstable, and driven by obsession. They aren't a unified team. They are fragments of a broken mythology. Most blockbusters promise transformation. A hero rises, the enemy falls, order returns. But not here. Quint dies. Hooper disappears. Brody survives, barely, by improvisation, instinct, and chance. What began as a hunt becomes something else entirely. Not adventure, not heroism, something darker. Something comes apart from within. The first night on the boat is when everything begins to fracture. At first, the scene plays like the moment we've been waiting for, the bonding scene. The team comes together. They laugh, compare scars. They finally feel like they might win. But then Quint begins to speak about sharks in the water.
1,100 men went into the water. Vessel went down in 12 minutes. Didn't see the first shark for about half an hour. Tiger, 13-footer. You know how you know that when you're in the water, Chief? You tell by looking from the dorsal to the tail. Very first light, Chief. Sharks come cruising. So we formed ourselves into tight groups. But the idea was Shark comes to the nearest man, that man, he starts pounding and hollering and screaming. Sometimes the shark would go away. Sometimes he wouldn't go away. Sometimes that shark, he looks right into you, right into your eyes. You know the thing about a shark, he's got lifeless eyes, black eyes, like a doll's eyes. When he comes at you, he doesn't seem to be living until he bites you. And those black eyes roll over white, and then you hear that terrible high-pitched screaming. The ocean turns red, and in spite of all the pounding and the hollering, they all come in, they rip you to pieces. So 1,100 men went in the war. 316 men come out. The Sharks took the rest June the 29th, 1945. Anyway, we delivered the bomb.
The structure betrays us. We thought this was the heroic bonding moment. This should be the narrative turning point where the team unites and the audience exhales. Instead, we get shared trauma, followed by immediate punishment. This is formalism used as a weapon. Sound design plays a critical role, with the eerie silence beneath Quint's monologue building tension through omission. When the shark strikes, it hits with the force of a gut punch. Lighting and blocking also contribute, as dim lantern light isolates faces and makes the cabin feel smaller, shifting the atmosphere from intimate to claustrophobic. The editing style relies on long takes and avoids quick cuts, allowing Spielberg to let dread settle in. The mise-en-scène emphasizes that the boat isn't just transport, but a floating coffin, heightening the sense of confinement. Regarding performance, Robert Shaw doesn't simply perform the story. He relives it, and it is devastating. Structure doesn't guide us here. It falls apart. Meaning creeps in through silence, unease, and absence. Yes, the shark is real. The danger is clear. But Jaws resists interpretation. It offers fear without comfort, tension without closure. This is formalism at its finest. Sound, editing, and spatial design working together to induce panic. Because of the mechanical failures with the shark prop, Spielberg was forced to rethink how the creature appeared on screen. That limitation became the film's greatest asset. He leaned into suggestion, showing the creature's presence without revealing the body. We get ominous point-of-view shots moving beneath swimmers, the haunting simplicity of yellow barrels breaching the surface, the stillness of water broken only by air bubbles. The shark doesn't appear clearly for over an hour, and when it finally does, it's a confirmation of our worst fears. That something has been circling just out of view, and now it's close. This is how the film weaponizes restraint. It teaches us to dread the water even when nothing seems wrong. In Jaws, like in life, safety is never guaranteed. It always remains an illusion. When the shark is finally defeated, the return home ritual is far from expected. No crowd cheering from the shore, just two men paddling through bloodied water toward a town that never really changed. It doesn't feel like victory. It feels like survival, barely earned and already slipping away. Jaws ends with fatigue, not resolution. With systems exposed, illusions shattered, and fear still circling just beneath the surface. The shark was never just a monster. It was the shape of our unease. a floating anxiety with no motive, no pattern, just the promise that fear would resurface the moment we stopped looking for it. Jaws isn't about conquering fear. It's about learning to carry it, to keep moving through the water even when you're exhausted, even when the shore feels distant. We survive not by defeating the monster, but by recognizing what it has always represented. Everything we tried not to see, everything we waited too long to face. Because sometimes the scariest part isn't the attack. It's what happens after, when the world pretends nothing ever happened, and you're left carrying the weight in silence. That's your thought for the day. Minimum commitment, maximum meaning. See you next time. The Minimum Commitment is produced, recorded, and edited by Don Lawler. Music by Don Lawler.